Welcome back to another episode of the ABCs of ERP and Beyond, your go-to podcast for all things enterprise resource planning. If you're diving into the world of ERP for the first time or seeking to deepen your understanding of its capabilities, you're in the right place. From seamless inventory management to precise financial tracking and dynamic data analysis, ERP is the cornerstone of modern business operations. Join us as week over week we explore the intricacies of ERP technology, delve into best practices for optimizing business processes, and navigate the ever-evolving landscape. And this week, we are focusing on a crucial aspect of the ERP journey, selecting the right vendor. We'll be breaking down essential questions you need to ask vendors during a selection process to ensure you find the perfect fit for your organization's needs. From understanding their industry specialization and pricing structures to assessing their support team's location and exploring their roadmap for growth and customer service improvements. We're gearing you up, or hoping to gear you up, and equip you with the insights needed to navigate this critical business and decision-making phase effectively. And as ever, I am joined by my co-host, Nirav Shah. Welcome back.
How you doing?
Not too bad. You? A bit croaky, a bit coffee like you are, I think, by the
Yeah, I
sounds of
know.
things.
It's allergy season here in Chicago now, so um, it happens from time to time, and I kind of have to load myself back up with my allergy medicine. I don't have to do it during the winter time, but now since the weather is getting much better and we're spending a little bit more time outdoors, I gotta build up my load, as they call it, of allergy medicine, so then I don't have this hay fever or allergy attack that I'm having this morning. Um, but at any rate, what we have, I wanted to start our podcast with a just like a bonus tip for our viewers,
Okay.
and essentially like a productivity hack. I learned this just recently on another call that I was on, and I think it's a pretty cool hack, something to maybe take away and do, right? There's a lot of times we send emails daily, right? Some emails are a little bit livelier than other emails. And just in case it doesn't get sent out, right, you could put a double X in the CC through Outlook. And if you put
Okay.
two X's there, and it won't send it, essentially. So in case you start putting the two people and people you're addressing the email to, but you're just kind of writing it, and if you're like me, like I'll write an email 6 times before I actually send it. So if you want to prevent you from sending an email you don't want to send, that's one hack. You could put XX in the CC field to make sure you don't send it by mistake and then having to recall it back. So wanted to give that extra bonus tip to our viewers for productivity, and hopefully it helps someone out there. So
Nice. I've been there before. I know what it's like because I,
yeah,
I use the control and enter to send, the short keyboard shortcut for sending. And it's
yeah,
so easy to hit that when you meant to hit shift and enter, for example. And
yeah,
I've done it before. Like you've got everyone loaded in the 2 and the
yeah,
CC, and
yeah,
you
yeah.
hit control and it's halfway through a sentence. You're like, you know, I hate
Yeah.
that. So that's
Oh,
nice. I
oh,
like that
oh,
one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but
I
yeah,
didn't
no,
realize that because what I've been doing is taking everyone out.
yeah,
Like even if I'm replying, reply all is really annoying because I reply
yeah,
all, take
yeah,
everyone out so I don't
yeah,
accidentally send it, then
yep,
write it,
yeah,
then have to
yeah,
go back and put everyone in.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I
So,
like that one. I am going to use that
yeah.
one.
I thought we'd do something different for the audience this week. Start maybe putting in some productivity hacks for people to take away and use right away, and then they could also comment below, add their hacks in there, and we could share that with other viewers of our podcast. So, pretty cool way I thought to start our podcast, but I think we have an amazing episode again. We had a great episode last week. If you haven't seen it, check it out. We had
Yeah.
we had Christina Harrington on, and she was talking to us on all things e-commerce. I thought I knew e-commerce. It turns out that I walked in as a beginner, and I walked out just learning a ton of that. I mean, it was
Yeah.
a PhD level course of understanding e-commerce and how to start planning for your e-commerce projects and things. I thought it was just wealth of information. So if you haven't seen it and you're in the e-commerce space, you got to check that episode out. I think there's a ton of golden nuggets there that you're going to enjoy listening to. This one is a fun one for us, for me personally, for you as well. I'm always on the other side of this conversation. When we're reselling Acumatica and Dynamics Business Central, and customers come to us all the time and are asking us questions, right? And whatever they understand or whatever they know of what an ERP does to this point, they only ask the questions that they know. They don't know what they don't know, right?
Mm.
And I'm hoping from this episode I'm taking a lot of that information that customers generally ask, but adding to that some more specific questions that they should ask every vendor. And this is primarily geared to those prospects or businesses out there that are kind of, looking to start, bringing on a little bit more mature system, looking to bring an ERP system into the business. They're growing, they have, 5, 10, 15 people now. They realize that QuickBooks is not really going to help them scale or grow, and they need the ability for having real-time information, accurate margins, accurate cost of goods sold, accurate inventory numbers, and they start Googling like we all do, right? And say, okay, well, what else is out there besides QuickBooks? And then they hear from the grapevine or in the industry, hey, you should look at an ERP system. Right? The first step is to understand what ERP is. And in our industry, we like to abbreviate everything. So, ERP being enterprise resource planning, basically a business management system. And then they start looking at, okay, well, who do I talk to? And what do I talk about? How do I make sure I'm
Mm.
making this investment correctly? So I'm hoping that this episode is going to take out a lot of that guesswork. It's going to make that business a lot more educated when they do approach vendors on what to ask. So at the end of it, they have a firm understanding what they're getting and how they're going to be successful, right? Without having a lot of ambiguity in between of, wait a minute, I think he's telling me what I'm hearing, but I'm afraid to ask, or, I think I heard what I heard and I think I'm just going to go with it. So it's really important to understand and ask the right questions to vendors. And I always promote that to my prospects when we work with them, is to say, hey, you haven't asked this question, but we're going to help you understand this anyways, because it's going to help you in your decision making process. Whether you decide to use us as your ERP vendor or not, that's totally beside the point. We just want to make sure you're fully educated on what you're getting at the end of the day when you work with us. So you could, you're rest assured that your business is going to grow, right? With this investment that you're making. So this is a really important topic, I think, and it's just mind blowing that we just came to this realization and talk about this now after all these episodes. But I'm super super happy that we're doing this, and I think we have some pretty cool questions to talk about.
Yeah, this is really important because it's essentially like you're in a recruitment phase. You're
Yeah,
recruiting a vendor. It's like you
yeah.
wouldn't, say you've got a job position that's open. You wouldn't just go and just invite someone in and go, right, I'm not going to ask you any questions. Do you think you can do the job? Yep. Okay, you're hired.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't work like that, does it?
Yeah, no.
And it's almost the same thing here for vendor selection on ERP.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
it's like a job interview. Like they've got to be the
Absolutely.
right fit for you, you've got to be the right fit for them, and vice versa. And we see that in some of these questions. And I think the
Yeah.
first question here that we've got is one of the most important ones I think of, is asking the vendor what is the industry that they primarily serve. So, what's
Yeah.
the importance with this question here, Nirav?
Yeah, there's ERP systems you're gonna find once you start looking at what's out there, especially the ones um, that have what I would say the most marketing dollars behind them. Talk about Acumatica, Microsoft Dynamics, Business Central, NetSuite, and these are just primarily the SMB space. Now, when you talk about enterprise and you talk about F&O and SAP and Oracles and all the bigger products, right? Kind of the same way, but essentially these are all generic, and they're generic in the standpoint that you could make them work in any industry, right? You may have to do a little bit of customizations. You may have to get some custom reports, but you could effectively get it to do what you want it to do. But if I'm in the position of the prospect and I'm trying to understand, well, is this vendor the right vendor for me to work with? And is he going to make me successful with this ERP system that we're buying? The question I want to understand is, what is their customer concentration? Do they have a lot of customers in my same industry, right? And that's important because that means a vendor is hitting the ground running with you. They understand your industry, they understand your challenges. They'll be able to bring better business processes and discussion to the table, right? Get you implemented faster, right? You're not spending a lot of time having the vendor learn about your business, right? And there's going to be part of that. There's going to be some of that in every implementation. But if you could find a vendor that serves your industry, right, that's always better. I always say, you know what makes a successful implementation is a better partner than product. Because a better partner, the vendor in this case, will understand your needs and requirements. And most likely, regardless of the solution, they'll be able to make the solution work for you pretty fast, right? Or give you give you a better option if they sell multiple products, right, on what they should do. So and you get better alignment with industry needs, right? As that industry is growing or there's new requirements coming up, that vendor is keeping up with it. They're understanding what that industry is doing, what direction that industry is going in, so they could provide you with that continuous feedback. Like, hey, Mr. Customer, we just had another customer in your same space, use this process now, X, Y, and Z reasons. They do it because it's going to be mandated down the road. So here, we just created a report. You get benefit of that report as well, right? So on and so forth. So it's a business partnership at the end of the day, right? And these vendors like myself, we get so intimately involved in knowing that business that if we don't provide that feedback on how they could, maybe do something better, how they could save a few keystrokes, right? How we can more automate their business using the ERP system, right? We're not doing our job at the end of the day. So, the first question is always, does that vendor that you're approaching, do they serve that industry? How many customers do they have in that industry? I think that's the number one question that I would ask, at least, to start weeding out the right vendors from the wrong vendors.
How niche do we have to be here when we talk about industry? Because you're going to have, and I see this where businesses are like, oh yeah, well, we're different, you see.
Yeah.
We're not like everyone else.
Yeah.
Like we need this customization. We need this specific thing because we're different. When we're looking at vendors and assessing, do they have experience in my industry? Are we talking like do they have experience in manufacturing, or are we more detailed in, has this vendor worked with injection molding companies before? Has this vendor been in electromechanical work before? So how specific when we're talking about the industry?
I would start as specific as you could get right out of the gate, right? And you bring up a good point, because not a lot of vendors are going to be very niche like that. They're not going to be able to say, yeah, we only do injection molding, or we only do, parts distribution, or whatnot, right? There might be some out there. Most aren't, right? But I would start out very niche and find that specific vendor. And if that becomes difficult, kind of start generalizing a little more until you get to a point, okay, you find a vendor that understands your space well enough that you could continue the conversation.
Point number two, or question number two here, is all around the pricing model, asking the vendor, what is the pricing model? So when we talk about pricing, I guess I want to break this down into two things. What do we mean by pricing model, and what different types of models do we have that we would need to think about?
Yeah, so pricing is continuously evolving in the industry. Acumatica just changed their pricing from a full consumption-based model to a number of employees plus consumption-based model, but it's still number of unlimited users, but they have tiers based on number of employees. So they just changed their pricing model. So now they have a two-tier pricing model. So you generally, more commonly, you have the user-based pricing versus consumption-based pricing, right? User-based pricing is that whole concept of per user, per license, per month. Everything is going subscription now. So even Microsoft, if you buy an on-premise product, they're charging you subscription pricing. So there is no one-time pricing anymore for the most part, or it's consumption-based, unlimited users. So it's like I said, Acumatica, they started group companies to say if you're under 50 employees, you're part of the select tier. If you're under 100, 250 employees, you're part of the platinum tier. If you're under X number of employees, you're part of another tier. And then they have on top of that, okay, well, do you do 3,000 transactions a month? Okay, well, here's your price. All right, in the select tier, here's your price, right? And that's like an M3 resource. Or do you do 6,000 transactions? Okay, that's an M2 resource in the select tier, right? So on and so forth, and they continuously break it down to make pricing easier from that standpoint. So as you scale, you don't have to worry about really the number of users within that tier system, right? Within that tier that you're on, you just continue to build your business on a consumption-based model. So if you start doing more volume down the road, you switch and go up to a higher tier, essentially, down the road within that tier. So it's very combination-based for Acumatica versus like NetSuite is transactional, right? And they have, I think it's 9,000 transactions or minimum. And they charge you according to that. And I'm not too sure about exactly how NetSuite's pricing is, but it's important to learn that model really, really well, what that licensing model is. One thing is about software license, and then you have the implementation cost. There is, a lot of different models around that nowadays. You have, time and material, you have subscription based, you have fixed fee for that. So you have to take the combination of pricing model from the licensing standpoint and the services standpoint and how that's going to fit according to your budget. So I'll look at it from that way.
Okay, so when we're talking to our vendor, we need to understand both the pricing model, I guess, of the ERP and then the implementation side. So for the implementation, you mentioned subscription based and fixed fee. So what are we trying to work out here? Why would I need to care? I mean that in like the nicest way, but why would I care at this phase? What difference does it make? Because I'm going to have to pay somehow.
Well, it's important because you would have to understand what your total cost of ownership is and what you're getting in that package, right? If it's time and material, you're paying for the time that you're spending with the vendor, right? In the implementation. If it's subscription based, there's probably a little bit more value there because you're most likely getting some sort of not only implementation training, but you're also maybe getting some value added services, right? In perpetuity of that monthly subscription. So you're getting training, you're getting business modeling, but you're also getting maybe 15 support hours. You're also maybe getting quarterly business review. You're also maybe getting you're getting three report enhancements per month, right? You're also maybe getting 15 training hours per month, and this is per month that you get. You don't have to kind of look at a clock every time you call your vendor, right? It's already built into the monthly price essentially. So you could continually build the software around your business, right? It's not just a one set it and forget it, right? A lot of implementations are set it and forget it. We implemented it once and we're done. We're not gonna look at it. We're not gonna see how we're gonna improve our processes. We're not gonna improve. We have the product. We have the data now, and we're just gonna keep going and do what we have to do, right? Versus some other companies like, no, we want to continue to invest in our ERP because we know we have the depth and functionality in it. So as our users are growing, we want our ERP to grow with us. So that's a good support subscription model, right? You have the vendor continuously evolving and as weaved in to that process with you. Or you're going to have the fixed fee, which is nice, where instead you say, I'm going to have, the implementation is going to cost me $35,000, right? Instead of time and material, which it could kind of blow out of control if things start getting out of scope, or, things take longer to finish than other fees. Instead, you have fixed fee, but maybe you split that out over 24 months, like a installment payment, like you pay for a car, right? You pay
Yeah.
over 5 years, you pay over 3 years or something like that, right? And then once that's paid off, there's no more services fee at the end of the day. So there's these different models that a lot of vendors are
Hmm.
doing. But me personally, I'm in the opinion of, if you're going to invest in the ERP system, you want to invest for the long term. You These products are getting more and more functionality every release, right? Every update, there's these publishers are pumping in billions of dollars to take new functionality and bring it to market for the SMB market and the businesses. Why not learn that? Why not see if that's going to work for
Mm.
you? So I think the subscription model is a better practice for customers looking to implement ERP systems, because I think you're going to get a lot of long-term value. You're going to reinvest in a system. It's like buying a machine. Like you buy a CNC machine. You have to upgrade your injection molding machine. You're going to upgrade your trucks. You're going to upgrade your something, right? Because you're going to get the return on investment. It's going to lower your cost. You got to look at your ERP investment the same way. If you
Mm.
invest in it, it's going to help you lower your costs at the end of it and keep you more automated, keep you more lean, right? And help you build your brand.
Hmm. Hmm. Next question here, going back to what you mentioned about this pricing, you mentioned support. So here's a good question to ask. What we've got down here is asking, where is that support team located? So I
Yeah.
guess there's a couple of options here. You're going to have local support, outsourced support, support from,
Yeah.
far-flung places, shall we say.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
what's the importance of asking this? Why? What's a good answer, I guess we're looking for here?
Yeah. I would, it's a great question, because after you're live, you want to know how quickly your vendor could respond to you. Now, your vendor is always going to be that front line of support, the first line of
Mm.
defense, right? They have to be in charge of making sure that you're serviced and that your questions are being answered, any bugs are being resolved. Now, if
Mm.
it's a bug issue that the publisher is responsible for, then the partner goes to the publisher and gets that resolved for you, right?
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of time generally between when a new support case is reported and when you need a proper response back.
Hmm.
If you have support that's like overseas, and you're waiting the next day to get an acknowledgement that they received it, and then it's going to take 2 days later until you start getting responses back of what the solution is, you missed already a week, right? Instead, what I would say is, how do you right now drop a case with the vendor and say, all right, acknowledge that I got the case. Tell me when I'm going to get the issue resolved, and do it within my working hours. You know, I always feel the happier customers are the one that know that they could rely on the vendor. You know, maybe they work, 3 shifts. Maybe they also work a weekend shift. They have to throw in an error, right? Or something like that, where the vendors reasonably available. You can't expect the vendor to be available 24/7 for you, right? Unless there's special support plans specifically designed for you. Most vendors are available 8 to 5, right? Their local time. Maybe it's going to be 7 to 7, something like that. If you're Central Time, right? We're usually available for our customers from 7 to 7, because we know, we need to be available for our East Coast customers. So for 7 a.m. Central, that's 8 a.m. Eastern, right? And then we're available until 7 p.m. Central. That's 5 p.m. Pacific time, right? So normal business hours. Now, we do check emails during the weekend if something emerges, or if a customer tells us in advance, hey, we're going to be doing a cycle counter, full physical inventory this weekend. Can you maybe have somebody available? Sure, we could do that. We could have somebody on call, right? But it's having that reliable support that's going to be important to your success. You don't want things delaying and dragging out weeks over time.
Next one, and this, I guess this is kind of linked to that kind of technical support side of things, is asking who will be part of the implementation team. So what are we asking this for? What are we looking for?
Yeah, it's really hard to break through in this industry, um, to be a consultant, number one, right? Unless you've been an end user for a long time, You could jump in and be a consultant. Even then, it's hard to become a senior consultant unless you have years and years and years of experience in this
Mm-hmm.
space, right? And those senior consultants are hard to find, right? But when you do find them, they're really good. They'll get the job done fast, and they understand, right, how to implement really well. There's a ton of junior consultants in the industry right now. There's a ton because it's just the natural progression, right? We need to bring the younger folks up and into the industry so they learn and they become senior consultants. So you kind of have to know who's going to be part of your project teams. You set realistic expectations, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
know that you're going to have some junior consultants on your team, then you should expect maybe some sort of reduced price on that, reduced cost on that, and then the implementation may take a month longer, right? Or something along those lines, right? So it's important to ask that question. Are you going to be providing me a junior resource or it's going to be a senior resource? Don't assume that they're providing you senior resources all the time.
I guess one closely tied here, another question would be to ask, what is your change management procedure? So what are we after here?
Huge, 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 huge. I've been doing this for 20 years. We've been implementing. We have you know a ton of successful projects. Every single one of our projects has gone through a change management process, one way or another. There's been a change management issue that's arose during these projects. These are big projects, and we say it all the time, Peter. These are big heart transplants, right, in the business.
Mm-hmm.
Can't take these things lightly. What is the vendor's process, right? And come up with scenarios. Say to ask your vendor, hey, Mr. Vendor, if excuse me, if we have an issue where we go down this road and we're implementing production orders and we go down the road of deciding to do picks, but we realize that our location management setup is all incorrect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or we feel that it's incorrect because of the decisions that the consultant has told us. How do we pivot and make the right decisions, right? What is the process so we get back on track? There should be a process for that, right? Okay, you bring that to the attention of the project manager. The project manager will then send a meeting notice out to align everybody's expectations on what we've completed so far, why we made some of those decisions, why we need to change and pivot to make a new decision. Let's justify that decision, right? Now let's go and set the system up based on a new decision, and let's test these 5, 6 scenarios, right? And then let's approve them, so then we can move on to the next task. What is that change management process? Right? Does that affect
Mm-hmm.
the budget? How do we manage it if it's a budget change? Right? How do we manage if it's a functionality change? How do we manage if it's a resource change? What if the vendor has a consultant that's working on the project all of a sudden leaves? Now you have a new consultant coming in. How do we manage that? How do we make sure that consultant gets up to speed? Right? Not just throwing that new consultant into the project. All right, go ahead it. Right? Here's all these documents and start figuring out where we are. Right? No, what is the logical process? How do we get this person up to least invasively, but it's effective enough that we could pick up where we left off?
Mm-hmm.
Ask these specific questions, right? What happens if there's a budget change management? What happens to resource change management? What happens to process change management? Right? How do we handle these different change management issues? And what are the necessary escalation points to
Mm-hmm.
get these change management issues through properly, right? It's an
Mm-hmm.
important thing. Change management should be embraced. Change management is not a bad thing. Change management should be embraced. It's actually a good thing. If you're going through change management, that means people are asking the right questions. You're doing the right things. You want the system to work for you at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Change management gets a bad rap, saying, "Oh, it's something that was not discussed early on, or somebody was hiding something from us, and now it's coming to light now, and we have to now spend all this money and redo things." No, it doesn't have to be that way, right? Change management could be a beautiful thing if it's handled correctly.
Mm-hmm. I think this relates back to when we've talked about some kind of top 5 implementation tips and things like this, and we've said
Yeah.
engage the whole business, get a diverse team, get subject matter experts from every single part of your business all involved. And I think that is closely related to successful change management, because you
Yeah.
might get to a point where it hits the fan and you need to reassess or kind of draw a line in the sand and
Yeah.
figure out some possibly difficult decisions to make that's going to affect the business and it's going to affect the implementation project itself. But if you have everyone engaged from the start, and you're all kind of pushing as one team, then yeah, it should naturally be something that's embraced, because everyone should be pulling in the right direction if
Hmm.
they've been brought along that journey from the start in the first place.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
A couple of others here. I'm noticing when we're talking, this is all about the vendor, right? And we're talking about what the vendor can do, what industry they've been in, what ERP that they've had experience of implementing, which 2 or 3 ERPs do they focus on. But there's always that kind of distance, I guess, between you as a business, the vendor you're looking for, and the ERP, the publisher of the ERP as well. So a question we got written down here is asking the vendor, how close is the relationship with the publisher? What are we looking for here when we're assessing a vendor?
Yeah, it's does the vendor does your partner, in this case would be us, right? We're reselling the solution on behalf of the publisher to the customer. Um, do they have the right paths to escalate issues directly to the publisher, right? Do they understand how to navigate the publisher's ecosystem, how to log a
Mm-hmm.
case, right? How to go ahead and talk to the right product managers if there's issues or bugs with the product, right? Is there a good support group within the publisher that the partners in or involved in that they could, help, take ideas from customers and give them to the publisher? Um, does the vendor or the partner, you know, are they involved in, meetings with the publisher to
Mm-hmm.
help streamline or build more functionality for certain industries or verticals, right? Does the partner attend publisher focused conferences, right? When the publisher do they go to these conferences? Do they invite customers to go to the conferences to meet, with some of the publishers? This is a relationship not just with the partner, but this is also a relationship with the publisher, right? And for what we do for our customers, we happily introduce our customers with our partner managers, with the managers that we know, with the publisher themselves. When we invite them to conferences where the publisher is at, so we could meet with the publisher, get questions or concerns addressed by them directly. So it's not where the publisher is like this entity in the shadow that you
Mm-hmm.
really can't see. You really need to understand how close is the vendor, the partner to the publisher, and how much access do you have with that publisher, right? That you could also be part of the decision making process. That
Mm-hmm.
your partner has that direct channel with the publisher to get to review things, get things resolved, get new functionality, feedback, and new things that they could then share with the customer at the end of the day. It's a really important point, albeit not as maybe important as some of the other things that we've talked about, but definitely it's something to ask the vendor is what is that relationship with your publisher at the end of the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's in my eyes, you're dealing with two parties here, and
Mm-hmm.
you want both of the parties to work, have a great relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, that links to the another question I've got here. I've never heard of this. I didn't realize that this even exists, and it's asking vendors customer satisfaction score. So, how is this measured, and who's measuring this?
Yeah, so publishers are now measuring partners like myself, right? So
Okay.
they'll send surveys to customers, right? And the customers are essentially not required, but highly encouraged to fill out this, what they call the CSAT survey. It's a customer satisfaction survey, right? And that's primarily geared towards two angles, is to rate the publisher and rate the partner that they're working with. Okay. And there's probably it's like 17 or 18 questions that the customer answers, and these publishers send this survey once a year at a minimum. to the customers to get feedback, right? Is a partner doing their job? Are they servicing you correctly? Could they be doing anything better? Out of a scale of 1 to 10, right? And the same thing with the
Mm-hmm.
publisher. And then they take these scores and they average out what the partner's CSAT score is, customer satisfaction score. So
Okay.
partners know that score, right? They understand it, and what customers prospects should be asking partners is, hey, what is your CSAT score with your publisher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll tell you, how strong of a partner you're working with, on how responsive they are, what's their support like, how is implementation, what's, what else could be, they be doing better, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think it's scaled to 5, right? Anything over
Okay.
4.1, 4.3, it's actually a pretty good score. So, I would definitely encourage, as you're engaging and talking to different vendors or partners, looking at ERP systems, is ask them, what is your CSAT score? Okay, can you
Mm-hmm.
share with us your CSAT score? And because that should be part of your decision making process. Because if you know you're working with a partner with a high CSAT score, it's going to be a good relationship.
Mm-hmm. Is this something that's like industry wide? So the
Yeah,
different publishers, they're using the same metrics, the same questions. So it's not
yeah,
just like a Microsoft version, an Acumatica version.
yeah. No, it's all satisfaction based, right? It's service support, um, price, all
Right.
that. It's based off of that. So the questions are pretty similar across the board, I want to say. So
Yep.
it's an important metric. It really is, and we strive hard to have a very high CSAT score for our customers. So we
Mm-hmm.
don't, that's a target we have every year to ensure we have a high CSAT score, and that takes work through the years, through the year itself, to make sure you're servicing that customer correctly.
Mm-hmm. Kind of keeps you accountable. I guess it's easy to
Exactly.
especially when you're presenting that you're there, you're assessing vendors as a customer. They're showing you a wonderful PowerPoint of all these previous named companies that they've worked for before. You haven't a clue whether that was
Yeah.
successful or not, or how well
Right.
that went, or was it on time and in budget. So
Right.
I like the idea of this CSAT score because it kind of keeps the vendors accountable, doesn't it?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, a couple of others I guess we got here is just going back slightly, asking the vendors roadmap for growth and better service to customers. So, are we asking here what their growth plans are and what initiatives they might have for the next like
Exactly.
3 to 5 years of improvements of
Yeah.
what both ongoing support and how they implement, or what are we
Yeah.
after here?
Yeah, exactly. As much as partners, we want to know your growth strategies so we could help you implement better. But as a customer, you want to know what my growth strategy is, because you want to know,
Mm-hmm.
are we going to be adding additional developers this year? Right? So in case if we get busy, will there be enough resources to help service them?
Yeah. Okay.
Right? What about do we plan to expand in other industries? Right? Do
Mm.
we plan to create third-party ISV apps that will be better serving for those customers in those industries? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Do we plan to maybe do conferences, right, and booths anywhere, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't want to work with a company that's gonna disappear overnight. Right? You're spending all this money, right? You want to know that, hey, they're going to be around and they're focused on ERP and this is all they're going to do. And we know at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, these guys we could call anytime and they're going to be there for us, right? What is
Yeah.
going to be your growth strategy? So I think that's an important question that always gets missed in conversations. But it's an important point to know that that we're also reinvesting in our business and reinvesting for our customers.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because it reminds me of what I said at the start of this episode about it being a job interview, and it's almost the
Yeah.
same, isn't it? Where do you
Yeah.
see yourself in 3 to 5 years' time? um,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
a valuable point because
Yeah.
again, it's a two-way street, isn't it? We want to know what you're doing, what's your strategy, how are you
Right.
gonna be supporting
Exactly.
me in the future.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. For
Mm.
sure.
Okay, last question. This is the 10th question, would you believe, that we've covered here.
Yeah.
Last one, nice and easy one to finish off, is asking for references in the same industry if possible. So this goes all the way back to question number one.
Hmm.
What industry do you serve? Can you
Yeah.
give me some references?
Yeah. Yeah. And every prospect asks this question, okay, which is great. This is a common question that every prospect asks, right? But I want to take this even one step further, right? It's not only the partner, but it's also the publisher. Get references from the publisher saying, okay,
Right. Okay.
saying that, okay, you work with a customer that's a similar size as me, okay, that's $15 million, same industry, that's great. But I want to know, I'm going to grow to $100 million next year. So let's ask the publisher, Mr. Publisher, do you have a customer that's $100 million that's in our same industry? And I want to go talk to them as well. Because now you could get a reference for a customer that's your size and a customer that's 3 times your size because you're going to grow that much, right? And that's your ambition. So you want to make sure you get both sides of it. And as for references, for not only what you're currently doing, but also a customer that's a little bigger than you and how they use the system and how it benefits them.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I know that we're doing this. I've seen it done within ITW business, but ITW businesses before. Whenever an ITW business is looking at doing a new a migration or an implementation, the first thing they do is you see it go out on the Teams channels or on the SharePoint, asking who's recently done an implementation of Acumatica, finding it out, from
Exactly.
what went wrong, what did you, how can I learn
Exactly.
from your mistakes?
Yeah,
Kind of thing.
exactly, for sure. Absolutely. So, it's those are all, really important points to know is you get so sometimes caught up in, oh, I just want to know, is it going to work for me now? But you're not in business to stay where you are here. You're in business to grow, right? And let's get a reference for a customer that's grown already. And are they using this system successfully?
Yeah, and these are much more around about the actual partnership and the relationship, and it's around how is this project going to work? Is it going to
Hmm.
work? Is it going to be smooth? It's easy to only think of the surface level things like, does it do sales order processing? Does it have a
Exactly.
WMS? Like, come on.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
easy to fall in those. If you've never implemented before,
yeah.
if you're coming off a QuickBooks, you're going to be
Yep.
asking those questions. Can it do
Exactly.
sales order processing?
Exactly.
Has it got
Yeah.
inventory control?
Right.
Like, yes, it has. It's like asking now when you're going to buy a car, has it got aircon?
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
exactly. Exactly. It's like buying a phone now. I could take pictures. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
a lot of these solutions can do primarily the same thing. It's the partner that's gonna be that X factor that's gonna make you successful.
okay, I think that's brilliant. I think that pretty much wraps up this episode. These questions are really good. And as ever, just remember that selecting the right ERP vendor is, as we've heard, foundational to
Mhm.
the success. Not only just the success of the implementation, but also your own, I guess, organization's success. It all hinges on this. As we've said, and we'll mention it again, it's a heart transplant. And if that doesn't go very well, the whole thing could be really, really bad. Not just the implementation itself, but yeah, the entire business will probably be negatively affected. So, thank you once again, Nirav. I hope this has armed people with some new insights and new questions to ask when they're making these kind of decisions. Um, and we've included everything about industry expertise, evaluating pricing models, support infrastructure. And I guess each of these questions, even though we covered quite a lot, they all play a vital role in finding like the perfect fit, don't they? So
Yeah. Yep.
I think this was really quite comprehensive.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. This is another successful episode, one of the ones where we go down all these different rabbit holes and we think, we haven't done one of the basics.
Yeah, exactly.
so, so it's always nice to come round and
Yeah.
reassess from the start as well. So we should
Yeah.
probably put a playlist together and put them in order because
We
we get
should.
so
We
far
should.
down and like, oh,
That would
we've
be
got one
cool.
from here.
Absolutely. That would be cool. That would be nice.
Good. Thank you again, Nirav.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
your week, and I
Yeah.
will catch you on the next episode. And I'll be expecting another productivity hack. some kind
Yeah,
of another example of the double X in the
for
CC
sure.
field.
Absolutely.
So
That's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do.
that's going to be Nirav's weekly hack. We'll get that added.
Yeah. There probably will be a couple weeks and there's gonna be no more, but yeah. All right.
Good.
Sounds good.
See
Excellent.
ya.
Take care.